Hey there, fam. I have an urgent message for you. A service announcement, if I may. When I lived in Atlanta, I did business with some pretty famous people. I worked on some projects with some household names, but just because I knew them didn't mean that they knew me. I had a pretty active life in Atlanta, and while I was there, I was a partner in a popular Atlanta venue. And we would host up and coming local performers, mostly popular spoken word artists and singers. And we would promote and host what we called Showtime at the Exclusive a couple of times a month. About every quarter, we'd bring in a household name. That's because we didn't always have the money. But when we did, we'd bring in a household name. And I had a friend who was an Atlanta based comedian named Tyler. And he was an established personality in the metro area. He had done the Def Comedy Jam, he'd done things like Comic View, and a whole lot of other venues that most of you may be familiar with. And before I met him in person, I talked with him on the phone, to iron out some of the details concerning his appearance at our venue. And on the day that I met him, he called ahead and let me know that he was pulling up. When he got out of the car, I walked over to him and stuck my hand out and said, "Welcome to the Exclusive." He looked at me and said, "Do I know you?" I told him who I was, and he laughed and said, "Oh." And then he just walked inside the building. And at that moment, I was thinking to myself, if I had approached him and tried to introduce him to somebody else as if I knew him, I would have been really embarrassed because it was obvious that he didn't know me. We go to the movies and we see famous people on screen, and we see our favorites in concert and we know them. And in Atlanta, it's nothing to see a celeb walking through the mall or coming out of a restaurant. And we know them. We know how their voices sound. We know how they move. We know them when some comedian impersonates them. We know them. We know them so well that we can repeat some of the lines they've acted out in some of their movies or sing a song that they're famous for. Yep, we know them. But that doesn't mean that they know us. And sadly enough, this is the extent of some Christians' relationship with Jesus. Just because we know him doesn't mean that he knows us. The only way to truly know Jesus is to earnestly seek him out by studying his word, studying his love letters to us. Because simply reading the Bible is just not enough. But to study it like a student studies their lessons. In his word lies his heart. In his word we can find his intent and his love. In his word we can find the promises he made to those who seek to know him. And in seeking him, he can know us in exchange. Some will eventually find that just saying that they're a Christian is not enough. Matthew, the 7th chapter, the 23rd verse says that when some stand before him and tell him all the things that they have done in his name, he will say to them, "Depart from me, you worker of lawlessness, because I never knew you." Knowing him is important, but more important than that is that he knows us. Like my friend used to say, and the moral to the story is, on that great getting up morning, let's make sure he knows us too. Rest in peace, Mr. Craig.